Several years ago, I was teaching a group of practitioners when someone asked me a question that has stayed with me ever since. She said to me, Tina, what technique do you use when nothing seems to be working? And everyone in the room leaned forward. I think they expected me to name a technique. Instead, I said, before I ask what I'm going to do, I ask, who am I being? And the room became very quiet because that's not the answer that most practitioners expect. See, we're taught to improve our results by collecting more knowledge, more certifications, and there's nothing wrong with those. More techniques, more protocols, all of that has value. I've spent my life learning them. But over the years, I've become increasingly convinced that one of the most influential parts of any healing session isn't simply what we know, it's the quality of our presence. So I'm Tina Brigitini, and welcome to my channel. Today, I'd like to explore why I believe the practitioner is never separate from the healing process. I love learning. I still study. I still attend trainings. And I still believe continuing education is essential. But somewhere along the way, many practitioners quietly begin believing that confidence lives in the next certification, the next modality, the next protocol, or the next weekend workshop. And eventually we realize something surprising. Knowledge continues growing, while confidence often doesn't. Why? Because confidence isn't built through information, it's built through presence. Presence is experienced. Clients don't just hear us, they experience us. They notice whether we seem rushed, grounded, anxious, present, distracted, curious, certain, open. And long before our clients understand our techniques, they're responding to the quality of the relationship, not because we're trying to influence them, because human beings are constantly responding to one another in subtle ways. As practitioners, we are part of the environment that our clients experience. And that realization changed the way that I approached every session. Now imagine placing two tuning forks beside one another. Strike one, and under the right conditions, the second begins to vibrate. Not because anyone forced it, not because someone explained the vibration, but because relationship matters. Now, I don't use this as a scientific explanation for therapeutic change. It's simply an analogy that reminds me of something that I've observed repeatedly. The state we bring into the room can and will influence the quality of the interaction. See, clients often respond to more than our words, right? They respond to our steadiness, our attention, our willingness to stay present with them. One of the reasons that I think practitioners become exhausted is that we sometimes believe that we're responsible for creating healing. And that is an enormous burden. Now, what if our role isn't to make healing happen? What if our role is to simply create the conditions where healing becomes more possible? See how different those responsibilities are? One is going to create pressure, and the other one creates a partnership. Now, across many healing traditions, the practitioner has always been considered part of the healing environment. Modern psychotherapy also recognizes the importance of the therapeutic relationship, presence, and the quality of the alliance between the practitioner and the client. Different disciplines describe these ideas differently, but many agree that healing is shaped not only by methods, but also by the human relationship in which those methods are offered. So I believe that's something every practitioner should continue exploring. So one of the biggest changes in my own work happened when I stopped trying to impress clients and started trying to understand them. That single shift made me slower, more observant, and also less attached to creating dramatic sessions. I was more interested in creating meaningful ones. And ironically, that's when my work became more effective. So this week inside of our energy therapy certification class, we had a conversation that made me smile. One practitioner said, I am finally realizing that I don't need to know everything before I can help someone. Exactly. Because confidence doesn't come from having every answer. It comes from learning to stay present with questions. That's something that we practice every week in our live classes, not just techniques, but the qualities that help practitioners grow into confident, thoughtful professionals. And if that's the kind of learning that you're looking for, I'd love to welcome you into the community. If there's one idea that I'd like you to remember today, it's this. Your greatest tool isn't your technique. It's the quality of your presence. And every technique that you've ever learned will be filtered through the practitioner that you become. That's why your own development matters. In our next chapter, we're going to explore one of the biggest misconceptions in modern healing. Why doing more doesn't always create more healing. Because sometimes less intervention creates deeper transformation. Thank you again for joining me for another chapter of the architecture of healing. I especially want to thank everyone joining us from around the world. Over the past few months, practitioners from so many countries have become part of these conversations, and I am deeply grateful to that. To those of you watching from India, I want to thank you for your thoughtful engagement and sharing your perspective so generously. And I also want to share that in my initial training with polarity therapy, which was developed by Dr. Randolph Stone, he spent much time in India and developing the philosophies that are applied to polarity therapy. And it's where my training began. So I just want to say, I feel the connection to all of you, and I truly thank you for being here. It's enriching this community in ways that I've never anticipated. I'd love to ask you a question. What qualities do you believe make a practitioner truly memorable? Not the techniques that they know, but the qualities that they bring into the room. Share your thoughts in the comments. Of course, I read them, and they often inspire future conversations. Until next time, take good care of yourself. Healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about understanding how we became who we are and creating the conditions for something new to emerge. Many blessings, Tina Brigitini.